am Negan.
I am Negan.
What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. This is for Fear the Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 1, The Beacon. My name is Adam Vale. I'm an editor over at the Koalition.com, and I'm joined by Richard Bailey Jr., editor-in-chief over at the Koalition. What's up, man?
What's up, Adam? What's up, Walking Dead fans?
Right, that's right, Deadheads. That's copyright. We can't do that. Yep. Sorry, you got Grateful Dead. They got that one, so we'll come up with something else. But yeah, man, this is it. It's back. The proper spin-off. World Beyond, kind of whack, kind of slow. But hey, we got fear. It's got nukes, like our boy Carlos would say. And if you're wondering, where is Carlos? Well, Carlos is still not sure about jumping on to Fear the Walking Dead. And it's not because of the quality. It's because he's so far behind. He only watched a few episodes of the first one. He tried to jump in. Every time we bring it up, another season, jump in. He's like, I'm too far behind. It's one of those. And I get it. It's 7 seasons. It's kind of deep right now. But they've had so many turnovers cast-wise, it doesn't really matter. So if you guys at home, if you got friends, family that were like, I don't know, maybe I should, just tell them to jump on. There's no point. Just jump on. Most of the original cast members, spoiler, are dead. So it's all new people, pretty much. You got a handful of the OGs, but everybody else is fairly new. Right? So, real quick housekeeping. Thanks again, everybody, for the support. Thanks again over on the Spotify and on iTunes, and of course over at the Koalition through the YouTube channel. Just checking all that out. Like, again, we have a bunch of interviews. Our entertainment editor Dana Abercrombie did a bunch of interviews with cast members from World Beyond. So you don't need to watch that show. Go check out what they have to say. Maybe they'll give some spoilers. They're going to pop up somewhere else. I do have a feeling we will see some of those cast members on some of the other ones, and that's mainly because the showrunners had hinted at that, right? They said, we're going to see some crossover. Anything's possible. We will see, so go ahead, go check that out. And I'm seeing anything else we got to clear up? Yeah, if you're wondering, well, this is interesting. When did this episode come out? Well, it's coming out Sunday, but it's out now on AMC Plus, and we are going to be covering it through this platform for the remainder of the season. So go ahead, sub up, or if you haven't already, or click the little notifications, because we'll be posting it, and that way if you watched it on AMC Plus, then we're going to be talking about it. If not, get ready, because there's a lot of spoilers, because we're about to run through this. All right, so 3, 2, 1, boom, there we go. Let's get started. We got nukes, baby. We got nukes. I love the opening. Just seeing a guy walk around with a gas mask. Because I'm like, yeah, this is going to be life if there was ever a nuclear attack and everything gets destroyed. Now, the big question that I had is like, where did he get this gas mask? Where did he get the whole setup? Oh, you're moving something. You all right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the show? But he had a cool setup, and this is Will. We're introduced to Will. He's a new character. You see him walking through the wastelands now. Got this nice orangey red mist everywhere. It looks cool. I was like, everything is destroyed, and it looks like he's scavenging for whatever he can get off of these radioactive zombies. He's checking them for their radiation level, if it's too high, checking their pockets and seeing what he can scavenge. And he's out there alone. So before I go any further, what did you think of the intro of just seeing that setup, just the way everything looked for the world right now?
Well, yeah, it's very consistent with what happened at the end of last season. We know that, yes, it's basically a nuclear waste town. This is what the entire area has been turned into. As for the Will character, didn't really know who this character was. I understand we're going to get into what his role is as far as this episode, but I would have thought they would have started the season with a familiar face, and the fact that they didn't, it made me question if this is the same show, because we haven't seen this character at all before this episode. So
a few things started popping up in my head when I saw that. Besides questioning where did he get this cool gas mask? Because I mean, unless you know this is going to happen, where do you find something like that? You know, he had the whole setup with the oxygen tank and all that stuff. He had a nice little setup there. But it reminded me of Lost. If you ever watched Lost, because they had in some of the seasons, some of the episodes where it would just start off with a random character who is not part of the original crew. And almost the majority of the episode is just providing their current situation and throwing some flashbacks. And I'm like, what is going on? What happened to the other guys? I thought we were going to continue. So that's what I got from this. I was like, oh, is this how they're going to introduce new characters? Are we going to follow Will and then he's going to have his own group of people and maybe there'll be some connection with others? But then we get that all that got squashed quick because we see that he lives in a van down by the river. No, but he lives in his own little van. And he's got all these walkers that are hanging around. And then we see that, what did he call them? Oh, man, he gave them some name. But there's some people that are also gas masked up. And they're the ones that are scavengers. I think that's the word he used. But that they were already stripping all the walkers of whatever supplies, whatever things they were carrying on them. And you see him hiding in his van, and he's getting real bummed out about the whole situation. Because later on we see he's still roaming around, and he's getting real bummed out that he's alone. There's not much dialogue here because there's no one to talk to, and he's sitting around a campfire. Now that was another little question I had. It's like 1 minute you're in the whole haze, the nuke haze zone, and then the next minute, that night, he's somewhere else, and it's not so hazy, and he has a campfire out, and he seems to be just moping and sad and the whole thing. And then some walkers are coming. He's sad. It looks like he's ready to just let them. I thought he was ready to just give up, and that they were going to just eat him up right there. He didn't give a shit. But no, one of them gets shot, and poof, we got some guys there, and they knock him out. They take him along. So right off the bat, when I saw this, I was like, all right, this is going in a different direction. And are we going to just follow him? Is that what did you get from that? Was just seeing the scavengers and now this guy, like, did you think that this was going to be connected to what we were going to get into? Or did you think, oh, wow, we're just going to follow some new guy's story for like half the season?
Well, when he got rescued, then I figured that must be leading to tying into what this story is about this season.
Oh, so you see that as a rescue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they didn't kill him. They prevented him from getting, killed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess that part. But I mean, the fact that they would take him away, I wasn't sure. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. I guess you're right. That could be seen as a rescue. I don't know why in my head I saw it as like a kidnapping.
but the thing is, once I saw the elevator, I think we all knew where he was going. Because Strand was the one that was in that building. So I think at that point everyone should know where that character is going.
And that's the other thing he did when he was walking around. We saw the building in the background. It's the only one in the area, and he was clearly heading in that direction. So I wasn't too sure if like, well, is that still connected? Is that the same building that Strand was in at the end of last season or not? Or I don't know. It was still questionable, but yeah. So then he gets brought in. They have a hood over his head. They take it off. He goes running off in the elevator, and then poof, we see Strand. He pulls a gun on him, and Strand is dressed up in a whole outfit here. I mean, what is it? He has a sword from the 1800s or some 1700s. He whips out, and he's got his like semi trench pirate outfit on with his little hat. I was like, oh, you guys can see it in the image if you see it later on. But yeah, you've seen the episode. You know what I'm talking about. That was it was questionable and it was funny. It took me out of it a little bit. I was like, I can't take you serious. How could anybody take you serious in this getup? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm looking at this. I'm like, if I was Will, the first thing I would do is laugh. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with you? You know, you snapped and now you think you're like a pirate. What is happening here? Because I think it started because he picked up the sword, right? Will found the sword and then the guy pulls a gun on, and says, oh, that was from this so-and-so time period and stuff. But anyway, he decides to, before I move forward, what did you think of that? Strand looked like he lost his mind. What's up with the getup?
Well, we know that the character, the thing is that all of this last season, You know, the very end of the season, when Strand was in that situation where he thought that he was going to die, he was ready to confess everything and all this other stuff. But then when he found out that he survived, that was when he decided to turn over a new leaf.
He went full heel, full bad guy on this.
Yeah, and that essentially was the point of this episode, was to fully sell you on the fact that this guy is now going to be an adversary to the others at some point. Well, at least Alicia, he will be an adversary too. But yeah, Morgan, I would assume as well, if Morgan ever comes into contact with him again.
Yeah, and then we're getting into that now, because he starts talking to him, trying to figure out where he was, and he was, well, I worked with this governor, and there was some other people, and we were in a bunker, and everything was fine until it wasn't fine. I had to go. He was real vague about his situation, and I'm really surprised they didn't press him on it. Like, that seems like a no-brainer first question asked. All right, so you had it great in this bunker. You had food for days or whatever, years. Why are you not there? And he was like, well, something happened. Well, no, you tell us, or something bad's going to happen to you here. You know, you tell us right now. You know what I mean? You don't want to bring him in and then find out later, well, I sort of messed up. I killed everybody. You know, it's like, oh, no, what did we do? No, but they don't really press him for it. And instead, you know, Strand's like, oh, let me give you the tour. You know, so they start walking around, and we see that they're on the roof. And this reminded me also of 28 Days Later, if you remember that film.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember when they were in one of the buildings and they went to the roof and you see all the buckets of water and stuff, and so the people that were living there were trying to, you know, survive by creating their own little garden and save water and stuff. And we see the same setup here. And Will asks, he's like, where are all these people coming from? He's like, oh, just like you, they just wandered in. And I'm like, scratch the record, because that doesn't make sense. I'm like, oh, so how did they find you? And now, are these the people that were from your original town? Are these soldiers that are with you now? Are they the Rangers? Or are you telling me? Because that doesn't really add up, that you can just get people that show up and says, all right, you guys are going to start farming. Hey, are you good with a gun? Good. Here's a gun, and you're going to be one of my guards. It seems like too much of a process, and it doesn't look like that much time has passed from last season. It would have been great if they put, like, at the bottom, I don't know, 6 months later or something. But it doesn't look like it was that much time that it had passed. So when he said, oh, they all showed up just like you know, people we pick up along the way. It's like, it would have been better if he just said, I was part of another community, and once I found this safe haven, because he said that when the blast hit, as we saw, it bypassed the building. It just went in a different direction. And that's why they don't have the haze around them. But you could see that haze off the distance from the top of the tower. So he starts talking about that and saying, yeah, so I'm building this whole new community. Everyone here is safe and da-da-da-da. And then somewhere along the lines, he says, but you're not going to get comfortable here. We're sending you back out. And so here's your stuff. You can go now. And he's like, what are you talking about? You just gave me the tour. You're showing me all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, you don't fit in my plans. I thought you were going to fit, but you don't fit. That doesn't make much sense, because he didn't really ask him a bunch of questions. So I don't know. That didn't really make much sense, but I think they had to do that to progress the story for what was about to happen.
Yeah.
So when Will picks up his items, he put on his gloves, he's getting ready to go back out there. And he's like, all right, well, I found something, and maybe I'll just give this to you, and you know, maybe this will help you out or give you good luck. And he gives him the medallion. Was it St. Christopher or Anthony or one of the saints? And that was the one that was passed around last season from Daniel. And then, of course, he gave it to Strand, and Strand gave it to Alicia. So then he's like, where did you get this? I was like, what? I don't know. I just picked it up. He gets all, you know, upset about it, because now he wants to know, where did you get it? He's like, I picked it up off of one of the dead, the walkers. And so now he's really flipping out. And he's like, all right, well, you got to take me there now. You got to take me there. Because that was the other thing. He was like, I have everything I need here. Look, we're growing our own food, and we got our own supplies of everything. Which still doesn't add up completely. I mean, yeah, he gave him some food. He gave him pasta and scotch and all that stuff. But still, I don't know. But the whole point is they're trying to tell us is that Strand has a community. He calls it, the Tower? Right? Yeah. So he has his group. He's finally a leader. He's He was able to create a community and create a whole infrastructure where he has people farming for supplies. He's got, the scavengers we find out are not his, because that was one of the other things Will had asked. He was like, "Oh, you're the scavenger guys?" He's like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. I thought he was BSing with that too, but he wasn't. And the reason why I thought he was BSing, because I find it kind of crazy that while Will was outside, these dudes just show up when he was about to die, which tells me that maybe they were following him the whole time, and because they were already out there. But whatever. So he decides to go out with Will to go to this location to find the bodies, or at least the body of where he got this medallion. So what did you think of how they were progressing the story and doing the tie-in from Alicia and all that with the medallion?
Well, yeah, I mean, bringing Alicia into the story, that I think was the only way they were able to progress the episode. I personally think the episode dragged on a lot of times, because there were multiple times where Strand was trying to kill Will, and it kept going back and forth. But I guess they want you to think as a viewer, well, maybe Strand could be convinced, like Alicia, because it goes back to that whole conversation they had last season, where she kind of felt that he was going to fall back into becoming someone that was just going to do people dirty. And he tried to convince her that he can change, but ultimately that didn't matter. And that piece of jewelry played a role in that as well, because that was a reminder to him of what she had said, which is why he wanted to prove her right that he can be a good person. But ultimately, that's not what happened.
yeah, and we're gonna get into that now. So they go out there. It's those two, and I think he had like 2 or 3 of his guards with him, and they're all on horseback. And here's the thing that I brought up before we started recording, and this was the issue I had when we were watching this. They have the gas mask and stuff because they're going into that area. But he says, "Oh, no, they checked the radiation level. It's okay. You can take the mask off." I was like, okay, well, your horses don't have any face coverings. Like, what's up with that? And then it starts raining, and he says, "Put the mask on because it's going to cause all the radiation that's in the air to drop down on us due to the rain." And so they all put their masks back on. But again, what about the horses? I don't understand that. I would think the horses would die out just like everything else because of the radiation. That didn't... I don't know. For me, I get it. They needed to have some way that the characters can move from location to location, but then use a car, figure out something. Say, yeah, we have gas. We figured out a way of getting gas, or do something. Or I don't know. The whole thing with horses, just because there's radiation. Radiation just doesn't impact humans. It impacts all of life, as you saw before. Plant life, everything is just dead. It's gone. So whatever, but we got some information out of that little segment there, because he also said, "Hey, if you can bring me over there and we find this, there will be a place for you back at the tower, and give you a place you could stay there," and this whole thing. And he's still trying to figure out more information about and I think it was here or it's a little later on, but when he starts talking about it, about finding where the chain was, and he pretty much figures out that that this guy Will knows who Alicia is. Mm-hmm. And that was a big thing, because he first said, "Oh, he got it off of a walker, a dead body, whatever." But then no, he turns out he does know who it is. So they get to the area and they're having this whole discussion about what's going on and trying to figure out the truth. And then someone starts shooting at them, and it's that other group, that scavenger group. Right? So they get into a whole little firefight. Of course, the guards that are with Strand are dead. They get killed, and then also some walkers come in. I think we also saw some of that, right? One of them got eaten. It was a lot of chaos, but of course, Strand is okay. Will, he gets hurt, but Strand pulls him in, and he dumps him into a van, and he locks it. He pretty much leaves him there, and I don't understand that. Like, was it to protect him, or was it really just to let him die there? What did you know what I mean? Like later on, he's like, "Oh, you tried," and even before when we started, you said that Strand tried to kill him before. I don't know if that was really trying to kill him or save him or like protect him from it. What was going on? Because he still needs him.
Yeah, he needs him to find out what's going on with Alicia.
Yeah, and we see Strand getting pretty fancy with the sword now, and he's got another little hand blade, and he's got some cool kills going on here. A lot of cool kills going on, but none of them are to those scavenger guys. They just take off. So it's mainly just the walkers. So
Yeah.
So then from this point on, they're close to the bunker. And that's the other thing I didn't understand. Because Will had said, all right, I picked up the chain from a body and it should be in this area. But from where the where the van was, where he wound up getting out of and the whole thing, they're not too far from, I guess, the bunker. Because the next scene after, they're in the bunker. And that was the other thing. And he said he recognized... That was it. They were in one of the areas, and he recognized some of these walkers. And he says, but it can't be because these are the walkers these guys are people that were in the bunker. So something must have happened. So I guess at that point, that's when they walked to the bunker. I guess it wasn't that far because they didn't set up camp. Again, in my mind, I overthink a lot of this. And I know people are like, oh, you overthink, just go with the show. Go with the show. I get it, but I like to fill the gaps. And I like when the show fills it. But, how far was it? If it's just within a few hours, the bunker from where Strand is at the tower, then we're in the same situation of the Mothership Walking Dead where, the Whisperers were not too far from Alexandria with that tunnel. It's like, shoot, if everyone's so close, how did you not bump into each other sooner? Mm-hmm. So they get to the bunker and we see that there's a big room area where like a conference room. And it had there was a note that was on the podium that was taped up. What was it? It's a Pedro or something like that. And then he was like, "Who's that? Do you know that person?" I was like, "Oh no, it's not a person. It's like a place, and it's like a safe, right?" Oh,
no, it was Padre.
Padre. My bad. Padre.
Yeah.
So and then he was like, and that's when we get more info from Will, and again, Strand, who's very. He doesn't like to trust anyone. He always questions. I don't understand how he would go this long without asking the serious questions like, "What's your connection? How do you know?" Just get deep into it. It's out of character. I get it for the story. You don't want to go into that deep into it because then, because then there's no story to it. But we should know what's going on because it's the character would usually ask all these questions. So anyway, Will just unloads him. He's like, well, yeah, I messed up with her. And he was like, oh, you were in love with her. Or he said you had love involved. And he was like, yeah, and I had to leave. So we still don't really know. But we could just assume that they had some kind of conflict. Something went wrong. And then he had to leave. But he made it seem like he knew about Strand. And he said, he's like, I knew about you. She talked about you. I knew where you were. And so I had to figure out a way to get to you. And I knew if I gave you the medallion. Again, that doesn't really fit with him crying near the campfire. And letting these walkers get so close unless he knew that Strand's henchmen were watching and that they were going to save him. You know what I mean? That didn't connect with him giving that whole spiel about, yeah, I was looking for you. I figured if I could bring you in and then do something, I could fix our relationship. It was, I don't know. I didn't like that. I didn't like that whole way of they were trying to do full circle of a connection. Yeah. So what did you get from that? Did that make sense to you? His excellent, no?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a little confusing for sure. My main takeaway is that, yeah, the whole thing that Strand needed Will to try to get information on Alicia. So there's a lot of back and forth from the very beginning of the episode when they brought him there and they saw that he was of no value. They told him to leave. Then he starts mentioning the chain, and now Strand is interested in Alicia because he said that. And then for the entirety of this episode, it's like them going out to a place where he said that the last time he saw her, they go out there and they end up getting ambushed. They end up, this walkers, everything else is in the area. And then after that, they go to the actual bunker, which obviously looks a lot bigger than it looked in the last episode.
Yeah, and then that's the other thing. Yeah, it definitely didn't look like the same location. Of course, the stairwell down did look like that. But then again, we didn't really see much. When Teddy put Alicia in that room there, we didn't see much. And it looked like it was pretty much vacant. We didn't see anyone else down there. Teddy didn't mention anything about a senator or governor or whatever it was that's down there with his crew. How did that come about? Where did those people come from? I don't know.
See,
That
and
didn't make sense.
it didn't make sense, and therein lies the issue with this episode, because if it is a time jump, like you said, it should have said that this happened months later or whatever. You know, last season when we saw Alicia get put into that bunker, it didn't feel as though that much time has passed. So how is it that that much time has passed that now she has a love interest and there's another group of people that was down there and all this other stuff? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
We didn't see anything from that. So
yeah, and I guess she's the leader of that group because he said something's went wrong with that governor or something happened and she took over. How did that happen? How did she just...
The only thing I could think of is there must be an episode coming when they have an episode directly about her that will answer that question.
Of course. Yeah, it just planted a lot more questions. That's pretty much what this did. So then he said he was going to figure things out. He's like, all right, let's get back to the tower. So they go back to the tower, and now he has a new outfit on, and he's walking around with his new outfit. He cleaned up. And he's there, and he also has his new little henchman who's been around. Remember, that was the dude that he found at that tower location who had that set up, and he's with him. And he seems to have fallen in line. He's just listening to Strand, just going along with it. So they're talking. He's talking to Will, and he turns on, and that's the name of the episode, the beacon. He turns on his bright light, and it's shining out over within the darkness there. And we could see everything going on, and we see a lot of walkers that are approaching, and we are assuming that this is so that way he can have Alicia find them, and that's what Will is thinking about. It's like, oh yeah, this will be great. They'll find us, and we'll get it all together, and they go on this little back and forth. But then Strand is like, no, that's not what I'm doing at all. That's done with. I'm not trying to connect at all. What I'm doing is this. And he went and he chucked him off. Remember? So he did kill it. He just got rid of him. So if you were trying to get attached to this character, no need. If you wanted to know his backstory, we're going to have to wait for an Alicia episode because we're definitely not getting the answers from this dude because he gets chucked off all the walkers that are there, and that was his goal. His goal is to have the tower completely surrounded by walkers to use them as like a shield. That if Alicia does come with her crew, then they'll have to get through the walkers. But again, this sort of made no sense. Because what about the guys that were actually shooting at you? The scavengers. No one seems to worry about them because we know that they're not part of Alicia's group and definitely not part of Strand's group. So are you stressed by them? Call it out. No one says anything. They just ignore it as if that didn't even happen.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, we're worried about Alicia and her group. Well, why are you worried about Alicia even attacking you? That doesn't even make any sense right now. She doesn't know that what you did in the last episode. Remember the whole double? She doesn't know that.
Yeah. Exactly.
It doesn't add up. And then just with the Will's mission, oh, I was looking for you, and that's why I have this, and I figured I could use this. Well, why did she give it to you, or did you steal it from her? That's the other thing.
Good question.
That doesn't make any sense because he's like, oh yeah, to make good on what I did. Who knows what you did? We don't know. We'll find out from Alicia because you're dead now. And for Strand to pretty much say, well, we are self-contained. We don't need to ever go outside anymore. So we're going to have all these walkers surround the tower. And you know what? Aesthetics, that's going to look great, right? Next scene, if they do it with some CG, we see all these freaking walkers around a building. I'm sure a lot of people are like, hey, I'm not going to go there, right? We'll just keep walking. But for the story, then what are you going to do? You can't just be locked away. You got to go and do other things. You still have to. There's plenty of things that you can't create or produce up on the rooftop. You still have to go out and scavenge yourself to get some things. And granted, you're the only building, at least from what we can see from the rooftop, everything's been destroyed around them. They're very lucky. So, and then that was it. That's the story. It was all about Strand and Will and just little tidbits here and there. Like the little henchman buddy does bring up about Morgan. Like, do you think we're going to see Morgan? He's not concerned about that. He doesn't. Strand doesn't care.
So, I just have to ask this question. I will ask you, and obviously, when people check out the show, I would encourage them to answer this question as well. Is Morgan or Strand leaving the show? Because it feels to me like the whole advertising of this season is Morgan versus Strand. You can't have both of those characters survive if it is going to be a showdown. So that's the question that I have. Do we think that one of these actors is planning to leave the show?
Well, they're really situating Strand to be the bad guy for this season. Like he's
Yeah.
doing everything bad. I mean, there's the fact that he chucked this guy off the roof, but on the other side, did we really think that guy was good? You know what I mean? Like,
No. It's hard to tell because
yeah,
we don't
exactly.
know a lot about the character.
Exactly. They didn't really position him in a way that it's like, wow, I feel for him now. Oh, I see what he's trying to do. Oh, he loved her. We don't know. He could have been infatuated. He could have been a stalker, stole the medallion, and they said, hey, you know what? You're kicked out. You are out of here. Something's wrong with you. And then he felt like to make it up to her, he would go back and try to find Strand because that was someone that maybe she talked about. But then still, how did you know he was in that tower? Because she doesn't know that.
Hmm.
And so we don't know. We don't know. Because he said he did something wrong. Right? He said it was of his own doing that he's not there anymore. That was it. But again, Strand never pushed him on it. And I think for the story, the writing, that's why they put it to keep the questions. But for the character, that's out of character for Strand because he doesn't like taking any chances. Remember, he didn't trust anybody, never wanted new members of any group, none of that.
Hmm.
So it just doesn't seem right that he would just go along like this without knowing. Because once he whips out and he's like, oh, here's a medallion. I got off a walker. I would have had my guys hold him down. We're going to start cutting off fingers until you tell us exactly what you did to the girl that had this.
Yeah.
You know, I don't trust you. He's been around. We're season 7. We've seen it all. We've seen good people. We've seen bad people. We've seen double crosses. You name it, we've seen it. And he's seen it because he's one of the day one characters.
Hmm.
So it just threw me off. Wasn't too crazy about it. I like the setting. I like the nuke and all that. That's great. But the storytelling right now, a little suspect. Just to see how they're trying to put this all together. Because if we were just to think about it right now, put the pictures up on a bulletin board. All right, we have Strand. They're putting him as he's the crazy bad guy now, and he has his own group of people. Don't know how many people, but he has a bunch of people. Okay, it looks like Alicia is now with her own group of people. Don't know what they're doing. They're no longer in that bunker. Who knows where they are? And then when we saw from the trailer for the next episode, it's going to follow Morgan and his, quote unquote wife now and the baby. And I think they're still in the submarine. Couldn't tell, but it looks like they're definitely indoors somewhere that's protecting them from the elements. And maybe that's where it's going to go. Maybe it's going to be one of those seasons where every episode, at least the first part of it, because I'm sure it's going to have a mid-season break like they usually do, it's going to follow every group. Because the big question, and I bet you it's going to be toward the last episodes, toward the mid-season break, is what happened with the CRM? What happened with Dwight and those guys that got picked up? Where did they go? Did they go and then do they find Rick? Or do they find Michonne? There's going to be some connection. They said that too. Showrunners had said these are all going to connect in some way. Now, this is not the last season from Fear the Walking Dead. At least they haven't said anything about it coming to an end. And I would think if this was the last season, they would have said it, just like they did Walking Dead proper, saying, oh yeah, this is our final season. So, can someone die from here? Maybe.
Yeah.
7 seasons in. Strand can go if he wants, but he's doing a lot behind the scenes. He's directed a few episodes, so.
And it's also worth mentioning there is another spinoff coming, The Tales of the Walking Dead, and they mentioned that that's going to feature new and regular regular characters on all of the shows. So I don't know exactly what that entails. It's supposed to start next year, I think in the springtime.
Yeah, and people don't get confused. That's not the Carol and Daryl one. That's another one.
This is something totally different. That they said they're taking a risky move with trying something totally different. So
something riskier than World Beyond, because that was that was risky, and I'm glad that they only got approved for 2 seasons. I mean, it's still 1 season too long, because that could have been a one and done. But whatever. That we only got a few more episodes of that, and I just hope they do a really good tie-in. We've obtained some information, like we discussed in the last episode. If you haven't, go check that out. World Beyond that we did. Just useful information that applies to the Walking Dead universe. They are doing some tie-ins, as opposed to this one. We don't hear anything about that. I mean, for a little while we did with Morgan trying to get the crew back to Alexandria, but that never happened, and here we are in the wastelands. All right, people, that was it. That was our rundown for Fear the Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 1, The Beacon. You know, it's a cool setup. It's a cool environment. I like the set's design of how they do this every season. Last year, we had the whole thing with the cowboy theme, and now we have the nuke theme. Yeah, Nuketown. It's going to be crazy. We got radioactive walkers over here, and I'm sure we're going to have some people that maybe get sick, and maybe what happens if they do get some radiation poison, and we maybe see some people walking around with some missing hair or skin or something, you know, just some permanent disfigurements. That would be interesting, you know, have some characters, because right now the only person we have that's disfigured is Dwight, and that's because of Negan burning his face with the iron. So that was way. In fact, that happened. That was in the comic, and then that was also in the show. But that didn't happen in the show. We were introduced to Dwight already with the burnt face.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was cool. I'm still looking forward to it. I like this series. Everybody knows I like this. You like this series. So yeah, the story sounds like a little suspect right now, but it's the first episode. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Well, one last comment that I will make. I agree. The storyline is, it's a lot of questions that were raised that they have to answer. But I just want to reiterate, it is better than World Beyond. But if I had to compare this to Season 6, Episode 1, that was a way better episode. Because you saw the progression of Morgan in that whole episode.
Yeah. That's where we also had the bounty hunter and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely taking a different approach. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, people. We will be back next time, sometime during this week. We'll definitely before Sunday with World Beyond. What is that? Episode 3?
That's correct.
Right. That's it. Right. Oh, can't wait till that's done. All right. So we'll be back for that one again. All right. Thanks again, people. Remember, you can check us out over on iTunes and Spotify. Spotify got the cool little bell notifications, so that way when we post these up, whether you've seen the episode or not, you can jump in and check it out. All right, people. Talk to you later. Peace.